So let's look at some possible use cases in the retail environment. You are familiar with marketplaces, Amazon, eBay, etc. And what if you could create a blockchain-enabled marketplace that is more trustworthy? Okay, where when you buy something, things are actually kept in escrow. And when you make the payment, the other party can release the digital good or the physical goods to you. And when it is delivered and signed off, the payment can be released, right? So just think in terms of some of the issues that we see today, counterfeit products. The Louis Vuitton bag that you bought for $1,500 or the Rolex watch that you have, how do you know it is real? How do you know if it is fake? The authorized distributor for Rolex can open it up and they can see certain things inside that allows them to verify in the system that allows you to do. But how does an average consumer know that it is real or fake, right? And there are ways to connect the dots using serial numbers, using QR codes, using barcodes to be able to scan and verify into the real systems and bring that information together, right? That's possible. That's one possible application. How do you track inventory? I have warehouses all over the place. I have different factories. How do you even know if somebody is stealing stuff from these places, right? So you need to have some kind of end-to-end visibility. Return goods, we kind of touched upon that. How do you get the return goods back? I was talking to one large furniture retailer. They're $10–15 billion in size. The cost of returns is 6 to 8%. 6 to 8% of what is sold comes back to you. So if you're a $10 or $15 billion company, we're dealing with hundreds of millions of losses associated with the returns. If I have a blockchain-enabled loyalty program as opposed to a standard loyalty program, I can earn points in American Airlines and I can redeem in United Airlines. If I don't have enough points to redeem my flight on Southwest Airlines, I could use my United points or my Marriott points, and then I could combine that. If I own those points and it's in my system, if it is logged up in their system, then I don't have a way to do that. So when you start combining resources to open up these ecosystems, now you have the power to create exponential advantage, not only for the consumers, but also for the businesses who participate in it, because I have more places where people will use my points, right? These are some retail use cases. Let's look at some manufacturing use cases. Contract management between suppliers, right? And these are notoriously inefficient. What happens today? People sign contracts, they send them back and forth, one word, lawyers get involved, your multiple people from your companies get involved. Finally, you sign, you create a PDF, and the document is put somewhere. How do you know the supplier KPIs and enforcement of those policies are a completely different business process? The lawyers are not involved. They're not running your supply chain. So you have to now translate from a piece of document that is sitting in a legal system to something that is now operationally, the guy on the floor really doesn't care about the contract. The only thing he needs to know is I have a 24-hour SLA or a 4-hour SLA for that, right? So that information needs to be translated across the organization in a way that you can have a lot more efficient management and execution. Because if I have a contract I'm supposed to execute against, every person or entity within my organization who has to contribute towards, they really need to know their roles and their expectations out of those roles. So that's another way to share internally between parties. A digital thread can be a communication mechanism that, because one of the fundamental challenges that we have is silos, right? If I can have a certain information flow that cuts across the silos, now I can have a common digital thread that allows me to have a framework by using blockchain as opposed to a enterprise service bus or something else. We are allowing organizations inside and outside to share information in a very high-speed, real-time fashion, tracking the production of the products, right? I need to know how much capacity do you have? I mean, we are recovering from COVID, and I need to know that I can actually make more cars. Ford ran into this problem where during COVID, they shut down a lot of lines and they told all the suppliers that they're reducing their production. Then the chip manufacturer, who were 4 or 5 years removed from the manufacturer, they got orders for consumer electronics, all the laptops and the TVs that people ordered, that started utilizing all of their available capacity. So when Ford figured out that there was a big demand for SUVs and the F-150 trucks, the chip manufacturers were not able to take that order because they were already 105, 110% capacity. And it takes 3 years to build a factory and $100 million. And they're providing a $1 capacitor or a resistor. It doesn't make sense for them to go invest that money just because the manufacturer was yanking them around in the last year, right? So how do I know who has the capacity? If not company A, can I find out who else has the capacity to do this? How do I redirect my resources to plan for supply chain changes up and down? So you need to have a connected fabric with trustworthy information. Okay, that's a different use case. Every one of these can become a network of its own with multiple applications driving it. Tracking maintenance, like Dr. Ramesh talked about this. How do I know the asset? It could be a big truck. It could be a bus with 1 million miles plus of driving history. How do you know that oil changes have been made on a regular basis? How do you know that the maintenance is being done properly, right? And that helps in maintaining the value. And if you buy a car and it has been dealer certified with a complete service record, every 3 months they change their oil and they go to the dealer to do everything, and you have complete history, you're going to value the car higher than a car that you don't know where it came from and it has changed hands 5 times, right? How do you know that the information that they shared is not been tampered with, or by having blockchain, it allows you to have that trustworthy information. Tracking the recall scenario, where did it come from, where did it go? We have had scenarios, for example, we have had food manufacturers go bust because somebody pulled out the entire supply chain and dumped it. And the farm it came from, the farm it went to, when the store it went to, are not the only ones who get affected, because food decays the moment it comes out and it's perishable. So within a week or two, it goes bad anyway. So if there is a problem, it's easier for somebody to dump the entire source of supply, but then nobody gets paid, right? So those are some of the manufacturing use cases. Consumer goods, we touched upon tracking the provenance. Anything that is a brand item, that is really based on the provenance of the item, right? Where did it come from? What is the craftsmanship? Why do we value an iPhone a lot higher than a generic Android phone, right? Because we value the craftsmanship, we value the design that went into it, right? The change of ownership, we can track that. Any critical parameters that you want to couple. You can couple this with information coming from IoT or other environment parameters, and you can track those temperature changes during transit. You can look at the conditions of the assets, right? In a remote location that it's hard to get to. You can automatically collect data, and then you can analyze that data using artificial intelligence tools and data analytics tools to know that you're working on verified data. Now you can take large quantities of data and process it to look at the conditions of the asset. Regulators have the entire history. It's a lot easier for them to go to one place without having to do field visits. And if you know that the data has been secured, not tampered with, and has been handled in a compliant manner, then they can do spot visits. They don't have to do the traditional way, right? The warranty ownership, the genuineness of products. I'll give you one example. And before I go there, this is a few years back. I had an old Toyota Sienna, and I had like 200,000 miles on the car. And as I was getting on the freeway, I started seeing some smoke come out of the under the hood. So I went to the nearest service station. So I kind of coasted into the service station. The guy looked at it and he said, it's going to be like $600 to change it. Okay? Something, we're going to replace it with OEM parts and etc. Okay? So I just smiled. I called AAA, had the car towed straight to my mechanic that I trust. The guy kind of looked at it and he was laughing. Hey, this car has 200,000 miles on it. Who wants to put an OEM part on it? Who knows that the guy is actually going to put an OEM part on it, right? He just saw somebody in distress, or he had an opportunity to rip off somebody, right? And how many such things happen on a daily basis? I never gone back to that guy, and I never will go back to that guy, right? Because I lost trust in that. But a lot of people don't know this happens. Now, if you have a way to take this kind of information, and don't you think it'll be better than the 4-star, 5-star reviews that you see on Amazon? Right? This is just some examples there. Any questions? So I have one last slide. So this is a project that we are working on right now. And this particular company sells products, private label through some of the well-known brands, and food product. Okay? It has many ingredients that go into it. They have to verify multiple things. Okay? So this is some of the concerns that the customers have, the brands have. Is it fully organic? Are all the components composition in the right proportions? The freshness of the products, okay? How fresh is it? Is it free from pathogens, E. coli, Salmonella, Listeria, etc.? Is it free from other impurities, metals, etc.? Right? Where did it come from? In this case, some of the items are sourced in China, some of them are sourced in India, some of them are sourced in Africa and Europe, different parts of the world. They're sold here in the US, right? Now, there are some concerns about counterfeits coming from some regions, China in this particular case, product recalls, product returns, sustainability is an issue. In some of these markets, they are concerned about social issues like forced labor concerns with the Uyghur population in northwest part of China. How do you assure your customers that you are not party to any forced labor, child labor, etc., when you don't even know where your suppliers are, where they're sourcing the material from? What is the governance framework for this? Right? So for the brand, how do you build the narrative and the customer connection and the brand differentiation? So within blockchain, what we're proposing here, all the data visibility, all partners share all the key data to a ledger directly, simplify data capture using cell phones with satellite pictures, with very basic information, data from IoT sensors, etc., with GPS codes for locations where it's coming from. Collect the data, including the employee payment information, salary, is it aligned with the normal salary for the region, etc. Verify that with other pay stubs, but not have to share that information outside, confidentiality wise. So we don't want to share that information, but we want to know that it's being done properly. The lab tests and the test results coming back, capturing the date and timestamp of all of this information, verifying the proof of the custody chain, ownership, etc. So all of these business processes are happening today. Many of these business processes are happening today. They're happening. They have to do it because otherwise you can't do business with the big guy. But what blockchain allows us to do is to make sure the data cannot be tampered by anybody. Okay, number one. Number two, we are allowing people to share data with less effort than it would take otherwise. And so this multi-party relationship, we are able to now also put some smart contracts that says, you know what, we verified everything is good, and this is a supplier with a consistent track record. Perhaps they should get some higher incentives. The ones who comply can get a higher price than the ones who don't, right? So we have different mechanisms to do that. So we are basically taking all these ingredients, okay, and we're bringing them together in a very simple proposition. And you can actually see the product coming together, final brand, where it is being positioned. So these are real things that are happening.
Fantastic. Questions about anything? Everybody understood the ESG compliance? Environmental, social, government compliance, it's becoming more and more critical now. The awareness has increased with most people. I'm sure, how many of you are environmentally conscious now? The very few, okay. You don't see many hands. So I think the awareness within the industry has increased substantially. There's more importance given to that, and I was just listening to Sunil's presentation, and many things are becoming, so important. The world is changing as we speak. You guys are going to go into a workforce which is completely different than what we all worked on. Very different. Dramatically different. It's not like 10, 15 years ago, it was not this much of a change. So the expectations are going to be very different. And you're actually, the knowledge, what you need to know is also quite different. Like all these things, how it applies, how it is going to change the industry. I know that many of you actually, how many of you had a little bit of familiarity with blockchain before? A little bit, okay. None of the other people had any exposure to blockchain. You never heard that, or okay. So maybe it was the first time hearing some of the students, and you guys are getting used to it. But did you learn a lot from this? Any questions?
I have a related question there. How many of you have had any exposure to crypto? Okay. Who has heard about Bitcoin? Okay, that's interesting. How about Ethereum? Okay. So you can see the awareness is a little bit different. Bitcoin is a whole lot more known than Ethereum. It's a whole lot more than any other crypto, right? And the blockchain applications are a whole lot less, but they're all using the same technology. They're just different applications technology. So if you see what has been possible with Bitcoin, then that kind of things could be possible with all of this physical stuff that previously were blocked away in silos. When you look at Web3 or Metaverse, how do you trust what is in the Metaverse? How do you trust what is in the digital world? When you can solve for this, you open up things that happen at the speed of light versus the physical movement of goods and services.
Yes, Sunil, one question I think I would like to ask is when you recruit,
yes,
for your company, or what are the different traits you're looking for in a candidate, especially for maybe a tech startup, or you've been involved in many of these startups. So what are the things that are important which they should be good at?
There are two types of skills that we look for. Okay, so obviously the hard skills that you go to a school, you get expertise in coding, or you get expertise in supply chain, right? Those are the tangible skills that schools generally teach, right? Those are important. Those are entry tickets to get in, right? So you know what you're supposed to do. Okay, that's important, right? And if you're really good at that and you can demonstrate that with grades and etc., that is good, right? But even more important than is your soft skills. The soft skills are how you actually interact with other people. What's your attitude that you bring to work? Are you somebody who is motivated, who works hard, right? Are you somebody who is willing to learn, is coachable, right? Because at least when I graduated, I said, oh, I'm done with learning, right? Yeah. Now I can start working, right? I don't have to learn, right? The reality is if you want to go far, then you have to be a lifelong learner. So people who are curious, who has an attitude of wanting to learn and do the right things, and can work well in teams, and they understand some of the communication skills, those get valued much more, especially over time.
Okay. And how do you, like there's a stream of technical people and there's business people, right? So many of you guys will be more on the business side. And some of you who are the MIS, how many MIS students are here? Mostly supply chain. I thought there was a group. There's an MIS section too. So some people register underneath that. Okay, so mostly supply chain in this class, but when you have those two different streams of people who are coming in, how do you train the other folks? Which one is easily transferable skills? I mean, do you want some level of technical knowledge and then process knowledge, or how do you balance that?
So I used to run a program prior to this. I ran a company in training companies, employees, and hiring employees for companies and training them for some of the large consulting companies. And we ran a program and we have trained thousands of people worldwide. And we train people from all kinds of backgrounds, people with masters, with PhDs, with bachelors, with no degrees. Okay? People who are re-entering after 10, 20 years working in retail or other jobs. And now they want to learn a hard skill like a Java coding or something, right? The number one characteristic is we are seen as willingness to learn. Willingness to apply is anybody can learn anything. If they are decently smart enough, they can learn anything, right? But that willingness to apply themselves, that's usually where people make it or break it. And the schools like the Jindal School of Management give you a leg up. You get an advantage. You learn a lot here that others don't know, right? If you can take that and build on it, and you can go much further, much faster than somebody who has to go learn this in the school of hard knocks.
Excellent. What other questions? Anybody else? Yes.
So, what is the ideal job role of a supply chain intern that works at the professor's firm?
For Copperwire systems?
Like an ideal job profile of, let's consider a supply chain intern or a supply chain associate. If professor hires somebody like that, what would be the ideal job profile?
What would be the ideal job profile, Sunil, for your company?
So we are a software company, right? So we are a software company that provides an infrastructure for people to use within supply chains or other type of blockchain applications, right? So for us, the type of people that we need are people who can develop applications, right? Full stack developers, people who can sell, right? People who can market, right? So sales, marketing, business development, customer support, and development, those are the type of roles we have inside a software company, right? Now, if you went to a manufacturing supply chain, then depending on the type of role in that manufacturing supply chain, it could be somebody processing information, somebody taking the information and synthesizing it, doing analysis, right? It could be working with spreadsheets, working with more sophisticated tools like Tableau, right? But they are either acting on something and doing something on this actual shop floor or supply chain, or taking the information and synthesizing it for people to make good quality decisions out of it, right? The quality of the decisions matter, because if you make the wrong decision, you might be, depending on if you're in healthcare, you might be putting people's lives at risk, right? If in airline, manufacturing, and certain industries that are mission critical, then you want to make sure that nobody's lives are at risk because somebody put faulty equipment into the place, right? In other industries, it's making sure the flow. Supply chain is one of those interesting things where nobody knows about supply chain if things are working well, right? When something breaks, then everybody knows supply chain is the problem, right? So communication skills are important. Coordination skills are important. Project management skills are important.
Yes, Sunil, another technical related question which I was thinking about was, you talked about the, how much we trust a product, because of the data, we have and all that. So certain products are going to be more valued compared to the other products, which doesn't, because they didn't have, probably it was exposed to different temperature. Vaccine, we lost 3,000 vials of vaccine in California last year because the temperature went down and they had to throw away all the stuff. So certain things are very highly visible and we can do it. Certain other products, once we know it, we will say, well, that's a low-grade product. So don't you think there will be an evolution of standards that are going to come up, which will dictate, hey, these are the products of high quality, right, based on what we know about that product. So standards are going to be probably redefined in terms of what we know about this product.
Yes.
You agree with that?
Yeah, standards get redefined. Sometimes it's a battle between the fakes and the real, right? The companies that make the high quality products, many of the tools and equipment that they have, the counterfeiters also have access to the same thing, right? So you have to constantly evolve and stay ahead of the counterfeit so that your product maintains a higher level of standard and consistency over time in order to preserve the brand value.
So if that is the case, then what will happen to the so-called luxury brands today? Because many of these luxury brands are actually made in other countries and who knows what, right? What goes into that product. But because of the brand name, it is being sold. Now, once this information comes out of that product, there will be a new luxury brand that is going to be emerged, which will really say this is the right product, which is of good quality.
That happens. You have knockoff brands that come along, right? You have good enough brands that come along. So, for example, Costco was affordable luxury. Okay, Kirkland does things on their own, under their control, private labeled, but the brands might have a brand premium. Okay? So there are differences between. So, end of the day, what's a brand, right? You believe in that brand because they deliver on the brand promise consistently. So that consistency and quality has a premium. Now, the industry may change, the value for premium might shift from one to the other. So you have to constantly be on the cutting edge of innovation to keep evolving that up further. So like the mattress brand that we talked about, they're investing in this technology to not only show the trust and provenance for them, they're also moving the needle for the industry as a whole. So say, follow me rather than follow somebody else, right? So they're kind of stepping up and moving the needle forward.
I mean, if you think about automotive, right? Now, Tesla, right?
Yes.
Everybody likes Tesla in this room. How many people would like to buy a Tesla? Okay. How many people would like to buy a Toyota? Okay.
They're reliable.
Which one? Toyotas. Okay. But Tesla, everybody knows, right? I don't think anybody in this room doesn't know about Tesla. And I think a lot of you generation would like to have a Tesla. There's that feeling out there. It's a cool car to drive around. But the point I'm trying to say is, I'm not sure about this segment here, a little different in the response I'm getting. But generally, I hear that they want to Tesla. Everybody likes when we brought the Tesla here for a drive. Everybody was jumping in, trying to get a drive on it last semester. So if you look at the quality of that brand, right? Have anybody looked at the Tesla's quality issues?
Yeah, it's not that.
It's the worst
Yeah.
out of all the automotive brands. So, and now the car is actually selling at a premium. It went up $8,000 in the last 6 months. So look at what we perceived as quality with Toyota has changed into what is available from Tesla. Consumers have shifted their preference because what is considered as quality today is technology inside the vehicle. It's not really about the rideability, the ride and handling. During the days when Sunil and I bought a car, we would like to drive the car around and see how comfortable the steering is. How do we get the feel for it? Is it giving me the road shocks on the steering? Many things, right? And even the comfort inside the vehicle. Look at the box we have with Tesla. I mean, I'm not criticizing the vehicle, but there's not much inside the car. I mean, all you have is a battery, right? And then all these technology features inside, and that appeals to a lot of customers. So I mean, that's the shift we are going through. I mean, I found it to be very interesting. There's a huge shift in terms of, and their backlog in terms of, and you know what? Tesla is actually the highest market valued company within the automotive sector. In fact, they are the combination of all the automotive companies combined. It's about $900 billion. So you can imagine how much shift that has already happened. And to Sunil's point, I mean, it's changing. I mean, it's perception. I have a feeling that, once the people know more about the product itself, they will probably change all this ESG and other things coming in. They will change their preference from, hey, you call it a brand, luxury brand. I don't consider that as a luxury brand. I think this is the brand. This product is what I consider as my top brand. There might be a complete shift in the branding itself. I may be wrong, but I'm just thinking that might happen.
Now, marketing is about impressions and ability to shape the consumer's mind, right? So last month, my brother-in-law called me and said, hey, I'm looking at this new SUV/minivan. It's all electric from this company called VinFast. I said, I never heard of this company before. Okay. So I said, okay, where is this company from? So I went and started looking at it. VinFastAuto.us. Okay. They launched this vehicle in January at CES. And there are two vehicles they launched. One is a 7-seater. Other one is a 5-seater SUV. Electric vehicle with 400 miles of range or something equivalent. When I started looking at the car, the dimensions of the car was pretty close to my Toyota Sienna, like just an inch and a half short. Right? So one of the reasons I still have my old Sienna is because that's the only car that's comfortable enough for my old mother-in-law and my young son to sit in the middle seats. Okay? My other cars like the BMWs and others, they're not that comfortable in the back seat. So for a family segment, this car was the first one that actually offered a 7-seater, which is spacious enough. Okay? That is the first thing I observed. The second thing I observed was they were pricing it at $56,000 versus the Tesla's Model X was $100,000, $90,000, $100,000. So when I started looking at it, realized that they were actually pricing at $56,000, but they were leasing the battery out. Okay, so they lowered the price by about 30% by offering the battery on a perennial lease. So you don't have to worry about the battery replacement, which could be significant part of the cost of the vehicle 5, 6, 7 years in the future. Okay. So that's kind of innovative. The other innovation I saw was they were actually tracking all the information on a blockchain. They were probably the first manufacturer that I saw that are using information on blockchain. And then they went and added an NFT capability to the first several thousand buyers in the first 90 days or so. So if you buy this vehicle, Here are some bonus rewards. 7-day vacation in Vietnam. It's a Vietnamese manufacturer. It's the largest company in Vietnam by market cap. And 7-day vacation in Vietnam, plus a few other gifts, $5,000 or the price, etc., etc. Okay? And you look at it, it is designed by Pininfarina and manufactured by this company that did not make automobiles until 2018. And the last 3 years, they come out of nowhere and become the largest automobile manufacturer in Vietnam, and now they're coming to America. So with all that data that I learned, do you think that company has a chance? When there are 56 electric vehicle manufacturers ahead of them.
No? Why? Just out of curiosity, what your thinking is.
There's somebody ahead of them, so it's like
Too many players in the
yeah,
market.
the competition is very saturated. I mean, unless they have like one thing in particular that really sets them apart, that's like really competitive. It's not really. They'll get squashed.
What do you think, Sunil?
Don't know. 20,000 people put up $200 deposit within 24 or 48 hours. So the 20,000 plus people who think differently, and given the cost structure is much lower in Vietnam, that's enough for them to be successful. It took many years before Tesla reached a level where they could actually sell that many cars. And the total market penetration for electric cars is still around only 1% or so. So there's a lot of opportunity ahead. They may or may not be successful. They may not be able to capture the brand imagination. But now there are 80 more people who heard the story from me.
Excellent. Any other questions for Sunil? I know that it's about 8:30, more than what Sunil had planned for, I'm sure.
I'm good. I'm still got.
Any other questions anybody has got about anything? Can be other things too. Yes.
Yeah, my question is, I'm an MBA student, so I don't have many technical skills. I definitely, I guess we specialize more on the soft skills type of area, but the reason I'm taking the SAP course is so that I can work on technical skills. Are there any technical skills or systems that you recommend I get exposure or become familiar with so that I can be competitive?
So a couple of things I'll answer slightly differently, right? So prior to taking your MBA, what did you study?
I did biochemistry and undergraduate.
Okay. Biochemistry is a lot more technical than I can understand. Right? So there's a lot of things that you have to study that are technical in nature. Okay? So just don't confuse software as technology or hardware as technology. You have to learn many things around information, and technical stuff exists in all industries. Finance, marketing, digital marketing is pretty technical to begin with, right? But that does not necessarily mean that's the right fit for you, right? You have to figure out what you're good at, and you have to figure out where the opportunities are. So being technical is one, but you might be a go-getter who might be a what we call an A-type person, and you might be somebody who might be relationship oriented, which means that you might have a different type of job that is ideally suitable to you, right? Or you might be analytical in nature, so you might be in a different type of job. So if you do a DISC assessment or any kind of STAR assessment or something like that, you will figure out what is ideal for you, what makes you happy, and then you can figure out, yeah, I mean, knowing technology is good, being able to apply it to something that has demand in the marketplace like SAP or analytics or something, that's good. But if you know yourself, you'll be able to find the job opportunities, business opportunities that make you really shine.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good question. Anybody else? Okay, so Sunil, thank you so much for coming in and talking to us in such short notice. I mean, when I talked to him yesterday, I didn't know that he was going to make it today, but Sunil said, hey, tomorrow looks good. I mean, it was a great opportunity to get that going, and I'm sure all of you know more about blockchain than 2 hours ago. And,
Thank you.
And definitely, I learned a lot from you, what you presented, Sunil. In fact, I'll be talking with you more about it because I have a few other thoughts on the some of the things you discussed there. And so, thank you so much. And we're going to go on a break here for about 10-15 minutes, and then we will continue with the class. So, Sunil, again, thank you. And I know that you have a meeting at 9 o'clock. So,
Thank you all. Thank you, Dr. Ramesh. And if any of you find this area interesting or can think of applications of blockchain, then that's an internship offer for anybody.
okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.